How did you get people like Alex Hormozi?
I appreciate it. I'm a mutual fan.
There was a video essentially about the clear process of just typing prompts into ChatGPT that create a Grand Slam offer for you.
It is just a Google Doc, you guys can see. There is no opt-in now. I just removed that.
Okay, that's amazing. I will link it under the description.
It's highly unlikely for them to trust an Indian as opposed to a person from their own country. Now, when you see an Indian name in your inbox, you definitely feel, oh, is this legit or something like that? And when we reached out to about 100 people, almost 10 of them said, yes, let's talk.
Hey guys, this is Matt here. I'm with Jayant, who's the founder of Pixel Track, and Pixel Track is a digital agency generating now in the last month over 50 grand in revenue, and he runs this agency all the way from India. So in today's video, in today's podcast, I want to talk to Jayant about what it's like to start and run an agency, a business from India, what it's like in terms of, the cultural aspects, in terms of the differences between running it from there versus in other places, but also about his hacks, tips and tricks, because he is capable of a lot of cool things that I'm really interested in, like a list building, like getting people like Alex Hormozi on an interview. So I'm going to be asking those questions. So hey Jan, thanks for tuning in. How are you today?
Hey Matt, I'm so happy. Thank you very much for inviting in. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks a lot. Yes.
Awesome. Jen, maybe let's get started. I'm really curious about just a quick rundown of your story. How did you get started? How did you even come up with this idea of running your own agency, entrepreneurship? How did this go about?
Oh, I was a scientist earlier. I used to do my PhD in geology, that too. But while I was submitting my thesis, suddenly the pandemic happened, and I just submitted my thesis for my dissertation for my degree, and then pandemic happened. The country was in lockdown. Around that time, I was working with this YouTube channel called Our Stupid Reactions, and they used to react to movies in India, and these guys were actors, and I loved them. And I tweeted them actually that, hey, is there any way I can help you guys? And they said, yeah, we need some help. We want to understand your culture. We want to get in touch with Indian actors. I'm like, okay, great. So let me help you with that. So we formed a group, started helping them pro bono, and right in front of my eyes, this tiny YouTube channel of probably 20,000 subs grew up to like 1 million subs. And when I saw their growth, it was like, oh, this is so awesome. Like, people are making good money off this thing, and I didn't know that this is called digital marketing back then. And then started somebody told me, okay, whatever you did for this guy, promoting their brand, reaching out to other people, bringing all those managers, actors, directors to their channel, this is called outreach, and the thing that you did is called digital marketing. I'm like, oh, great, that's cool, let's learn more about it. Then I joined some coaching programs where I learned this thing in a more in-depth way, and whatever I did in the beginning, reaching out to other people, is something that it resonated with me the most, because I didn't have to run ads. I just had to send some messages to the right people at the right time, and people just responded back. And while I was doing this, I got a job at this particular company earlier. It's not like I was this founder from the beginning. I was initially the employee, and as I started working here, I built the outreach team, the sales team, and we started delivering outreach as a service as well. And looking at, while I started building these departments, the existing founder, he said like, hey, you know what, I'll give you equity, you come work with me on this company. Then we became partners in the company, and now we are both running the show together. So I'm technically a co-founder now, and he is the visionary. He sees the vision, what we need to do, and I'm the guy who does all the grunt work. I build departments, I build teams, and those guys deploy the stuff. That's how we started basically.
And so essentially you come from the scientist background, kind of I could think of you as an engineer, as a system person, as somebody who's very capable of figuring out structures, and then you somehow stumbled across entrepreneurship, and then you figured that, hey, this is a cool thing to do, to run your own company, and you realize that you're getting good results with it. So you didn't necessarily have that entrepreneurial vision when you were younger?
No, my father is an entrepreneur. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. None of my family members do a job. And I kind of learned entrepreneurship while I was young, because my father, he is in a very boring business, but he does make a lot of money. He sells groceries, and he doesn't sell, he wholesales. That means he would connect with manufacturers, brings in spices. Spices are a big thing in India, and he sells it to the public here. And my uncle, he is into real estate. So the idea of job itself was very new to me when I was young. And my friends would say, oh, my dad is working this weekend. I'm like, really? They're working? I would not understand that. But when you grow up, you understand, okay, after the graduation, you want to do a job. That's like the regular cycle. But fortunately, when pandemic happened, I came back to running a business. And I think whatever I learned when I was a kid, being in touch with my dad and my uncle, it kind of showed results now.
Okay. And then in terms of running a business or starting your own venture in India, how appealing is that? And the reason why I'm asking you is because I've realized, observing some of my friends from the US, for example, it's not as appealing to everyone to start their own business because the risks are so high versus you can get a well-paid job, especially if you're in the STEM, if you're in science, technology, all those highly paid industries. It is reasonable for you to earn, let's say, 10 grand a month. I'm just converting this into monthly, not yearly, so it's more tangible for the sake of conversation. So it is a reasonable number. Now, in Poland, for example, where I'm from, it is very rare for anybody to make this much money as a salary. So this is very appealing to get into entrepreneurship because the difference between my friends who run their businesses versus those who have jobs is huge. There is a huge gap versus in the US, for example. I don't see that gap is as huge. A lot of people are starting their companies, they're struggling versus you can just have a cushy tech job, as an example. How do you feel about this in India? Is it similar to Poland, or what is it like?
I think it's a mix of both. A lot of my friends, they chose to do a job, even if they came from a business background. But the truth here is this: that if you do a job in India, it's pretty secure most of the time. I'm sure there are layoffs, the tech jobs, but the tech jobs which are here in India, they pay really well. I mean, the median salary in India is about, I think, $500-$600. That's about it. And if you go into a tech job, you earn about 3-4-5 grand a month. I'm talking in terms of dollars so that it's just easier to comprehend.
That's good.
If I have to convert rupee to dollar, that's how the range starts. So, so if somebody goes ahead and does a tech job, they feel like they have earned everything. And if you make like five grand in India, bro, you can buy anything here. Like you can get to the most luxurious place in the country. You can buy cars like BMW, Mercedes with that kind of a salary. So a lot of people prefer that. But there are also a lot of people who are non-techies. Like, there are some people who come from STEM background, and I didn't like what I was graduating from. It's just that I was really good at what I was doing. It's not that I was enjoying it. So there are also a lot of people who don't want to do a job, and they want to do something of their own. For them, fortunately nowadays, the ease of starting a business in India is pretty good, because you get good prices from a lot of tools. Like, for example, if even a simple example of buying a professional email ID, that's pretty cheap in India as opposed to US. Even the government sponsors a lot of things, so that Indian government is pushing people to start their own businesses as opposed to doing a job. So that way, I think it's kind of a mix of both Poland and US. People who are more technically oriented, they mostly do a job, and people who are more business oriented, they just, instead of after graduating from B school, they don't do a job. Mostly they just jump into entrepreneurship. So that's the trend that I've seen. And in terms of how lucrative it is to start a business in India, the the circulation is like really fast. So if you are an entrepreneur in India selling inside India, people will just buy your stuff eyes closed, is what I've seen nowadays. Obviously, excluding all the big brands which have made their name, let's say an Apple, you cannot compete with Apple in India. They'll probably trust Apple more than you. But if you are a local brand and people just they like to give away, they like to contribute more to Indians, and that's how the ecosystem runs. But if you are in the service business instead of a product business, what we have seen is like India makes the most money through exports. In fact, half of India's export revenue that comes from services. So majority of the people export their services to US, UK, Poland, and that's the category that we fall in pretty much, right?
Oh, okay. So can you talk to me more about this? So we talked in Alaska about this stigma of offshoring. I think that's what you're referring to. Can you talk to me more about this from the from few perspectives? So what I'm interested in is how do people in India feel about this? Do they feel like by default I am supposed to have an offshoring business versus build my own products? What's the perception of people abroad when they involved in a business with people from India?
Yeah. So the funny thing is, if we start a business, if somebody starts a business, they have this perception that I want to become an offshore company for a larger company like me. So if there is the marketing agency in US, they just become the offshore hand of that particular marketing agency here in India. And that is a good place to start. And I think a lot of people have become comfortable with that. In fact, India's entire IT sector is built on top of the same theory that there are IT companies in US who just outsource the work to us here in India. In fact, one of my clients, he's a Salesforce consulting company, and all they do, they have a parent company in Delaware, and they take the clients, outsource the work or delegate the work here in India because it's a simple, low-cost labor, and even the end result is the same. And that's how the perception has been, which I don't agree with a lot. And I kind of understand where this perception comes from. Let's say a guy from India straight up cold mails or cold calls a guy who is just starting a business, it's highly unlikely for them to trust an Indian as opposed to a person from their own country. Like, I would not trust anyone. Let's say I suddenly got a call from even US and somebody says, hey, I have this offer for you. I would probably not trust them as much as I would trust an Indian. So there's definitely a cultural distrust happening, which is why it's just easier to target bigger businesses and become like an outsourced agency. But I personally feel like, even if there is a little bit of lack of trust, you can still make it big if you just know the right strategies, because that's what we have done when we started, right? So yeah.
So what you're saying is on a smaller scale of smaller businesses, people tend to, from your experience, trust people within their countries more. So what I'm hearing is that Indian people trust Indians more, Americans trust Americans more. Is that what you're saying? But
Yeah,
you're trying
I
to
feel
kind
that's
of
what is happening. Yeah.
Sure, and I have seen this obviously across even small European countries. It's exactly the same. I would see Germans trusting Germans, the Dutch trusting Dutch more. It's always the same. So you and your agency, you're obviously targeting. From my understanding, you're targeting the U.S. market as well. How did
Mostly
you
UK
go
market
about
though.
it? Okay, so
Yeah.
how did you go about this?
Oh, we started giving our services for free. That's how we started. So
Okay.
we realized that trust is the biggest factor.
Mhm.
So we also started being an outsourced company earlier, and we saw the kind of work that the parent company was producing, and we felt that we can actually provide better results to our clients. And you know, so I'll give you the stats. So this company, who was a lead generation company, they would do cold emails for other B2B businesses, and this company would charge about $5,000 to $6,000 from them, and they would pay us $1,000 a month, and they would keep a margin of $4,000, and they'll operate within that, right? And when we saw the other companies who are working with them, we saw like, hey, you know what? We are not that bad. We are doing fairly well, a fairly good job. in what we do. Why don't we just directly work with the the end customer? So we did some cold emails on our own, and we realized that, oh, the trust is the biggest issue. They were not trusting us, because when you see an Indian name in your inbox, you definitely feel, oh, is this legit or something like that. So we thought, what would be a better way to penetrate a market? Because nobody would pay me money unless they trust me. So how do we build trust? So we started giving our services for free, or instead of free, a better term is like, we started working on performance basis. In fact, till this date, we have a very small a monthly charge, but whatever we earn, the major profits come from the commissions that we earn by cold email to other people, right? So my first ever cold email was like, hey, X, loved this, came across your website, fantastic job. By the way, would you be interested in chatting if we could do cold email for you, and you only have to pay us on a performance basis? Now that became a no-brainer offer for us. And when we reached out to about 100 people, almost 10 of them said, yes, let's talk. And
No
out of
sign
10,
of fee neither?
no sign of fee needed. We're like, we'll take, you just take care of the tech part, we'll take care of everything else. So that was the condition that I put, that you buy the domains, you buy instantly, you buy everything. We write the copies, we bring the leads, and we shoot out to them, and you pay us a small commission per appointment. That's how it is. In fact, I remember my first ever client was kind of an influencer. He had about 18 to 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. And I started working with them, and I was charging him some $50 per appointment, which was still pretty low. Later I realized.
Right.
But well, I got my entry, right? And we gave him
like
some
foot through the door, kind of.
Yeah. And we also under promised like anything. We said like, hey, I'll give you 30 appointments, not more than that. Like that's what I'll push for. If you are lucky, we'll get 30 appointments. But we ended up giving him 60 appointments that month, and he was sorted for like 2 months. Now once we got our foot through the door, we said like, hey, you know what, now you are good for 2 months. So obviously we'll not keep doing cold emails on a regular basis. Now, do you have anyone else who might need this service? Then he referred us 3 more clients in the UK, and we started working with them. So that's how we kind of grew. And I think that's a good way for anyone who wants to start their business, because you're not a special snowflake. Nobody cares. So the only way to build trust is by giving a small sample of our work for free. And I think, and I would love to know your thoughts. You were there, so
and just curious about the numbers there, just to compare in my head to numbers that we generate as an example. So in order to get 30 appointments for you, do you remember by any chance how many emails you would need to send out to get one appointment, for example, in terms of cold emails?
Let me check if I have the stats. Obviously I can't share my screen, but
or just in general across the campaigns that you make, like what is a good result, what is a better result, in your head
across
on average across the campaigns?
All right. So on an average, what we see, we test with at least a batch of 10,000 emails. We test multiple offers. So let's say we create 5 offers, we test it to 2,000 batches of emails. And a good response rate that we look forward to is 5%. And out of the 5% people who respond back, so in general, meeting booked rate, when we calculate from the amount of emails we sent, should be about 1%. That's what we consider as like,
so 100 emails sent and 1 booking out of this.
1 booking. Yeah. Obviously, that's just like the baseline. You should be hitting these numbers even if you're not like a great copywriter or a great cold email marketer. With a basic offer without a guarantee, you'll still hit this number. And again, if you are in UK and you're mailing a UK business, you can hit these numbers very easily. That's what we have seen, because we send from our clients' accounts mostly. So yeah. But with a good offer, sorry, I also want to share with you the other side. With a good offer, we have seen as much as 10% meeting booked rate. We would send 1,000 emails, 100 people would show interest in talking to us.
That's really interesting. And can I just before we continue the conversation on that story and all those clients, just curious about the the email tools that you use to find those emails. So, for example, the tools that we work with are obviously something popular like Apollo, but then there's also tools that scrap emails from Sales Navigator, like Scrappy or Scrap.io, if I remember
Start by
correctly.
yeah.
Yeah, so those are all sorts of different tools. Do you have any recommendations in your mind that that you guys use, if you don't mind sharing, unless that's
I don't know,
company
it's pretty
secret?
cool. Honestly, we just buy everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't depend on just one tool, because Apollo is so popular that everybody and their mothers are like buying data from Apollo. So it's just depending on Apollo may not be like that great of an idea. But we use Find Email. Find Email is a really good tool. And Scrub.io is also a pretty good tool. And obviously you need Sales Navigator to extract data for that. Apollo being one. There is one more called Brand Nav, especially if you're targeting e-commerce businesses. StoreLeads.app, and there is Brand Nav. These are pretty good for those. And if you're looking for local businesses, I still use D7 Lead Finder. And there are other, like there is one, we have a lifetime deal of this tool called Artemis and AppSumo. That is also a pretty fairly good tool. I won't say it's the best. So honestly, Matt, we just keep buying lead generations tools as much as possible, because you cannot
There's
not
never
have.
enough of lead generation tools. There's
Yeah,
never enough of
exactly.
them.
Yeah, exactly.
And why did you say emails are cheaper to get them in India? You said that it is less expensive to purchase them in India. Do you have cheaper like sales register emails of companies? Like we do
I think
always
so.
buy
I don't
Google
know.
Workspace.
So if you buy a Google domain in India, it costs about $2, as
Okay,
opposed
the
to
Indian domain or any domain?
any domain, not just
Okay,
.in.
so we should start switching our VPNs to India. That's what I'm hearing.
When you want to buy something, just switch to India and see whether you have an offer running.
Yeah, and then a lot of I'm not, by
Honestly,
the
I
way.
keep doing this, by the way. Sorry to cut you off. So it's a
Sure,
small
go
hack.
ahead. Mhm.
I was buying Outlook domains the other day. In India, Outlook domains are about $5. But I remember I switched to, I think, Philippines, and the price reduced to $1 again. I think there is an offer that keeps running based on the country. So keep trying South Asian countries. You might, find some pretty good
Yeah,
deals.
I've seen this too. I've seen this with across the board with different software that this is the true, and I don't know how legal it is or not, but I've seen that two different prices there. So, anyways, I just cut you off from your story. So you were talking about the story, generating leads for this client, over delivering. They were happy. They were recommending other clients to you, and that's how you built your business initially. So you started with the referrals.
Yes, that's how we ran. And till this date, I mean, right now we have about 5 clients, and I think we have 5 clients from UK. We have we're starting to get into US market as well, and all those. The first client came to us through cold emails, and the rest everyone came through referrals directly. And yeah, and I still do cold emails, but I don't do cold emails to sell them. I just tell them, hey, you know what, I have this newsletter, should I add you in? And I add them to my newsletter, and everybody who says yes, obviously. When they say no, I don't add them.
So your cold email strategy now is to add people to newsletter. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or
Yep. Because I'm kind of oversaturated with clients, and we right now we cannot handle more clients. My team is not big enough, and as much as I would like to stay in India, the problem is, you don't get like really good talent with all pre-existing knowledge. You have to train people and ramp them up, which is like a big challenge for us. So at this stage, we cannot take more clients. So what I started doing is like, I built this ICP. I realized a lot of my clients are interested in AI, they're interested in cold mails. So I created this newsletter, and I simply cold email people, both in US and UK, saying, hey, I have this newsletter. I have something to sell you, but I would rather make friends with you first. Should I add you in? And they would, when I be so honest in cold emails and I say like, hey, I have something to sell you, but let's be friends first, a lot of people give positive replies like, hey, yo, sure, add me in. And what I do is every week they receive 2 emails from me, one YouTube video, one text-based emails, and they would love it. And guess what happens when I'm ready to hire one more client? I just have to send one email to that list saying, hey, you know what, we are open for one client. we have this crazy offer running. You don't have to pay us anything upfront. Would you be interested? They would say yes. That's
And
the strategy for now.
And then we talked about it last time, right? You said that this is one of your superpowers, that you have this list building skills, that you're warming up a list, and that's also part of your collaboration with, I think, Alex. You talked about this before. Can you talk about this skill, that system that you have, where you're building lists, warming up the lists? How does that work?
It's pretty simple. I mean, so we never ran ads to a offer ever in our entire thing. So we have, we developed a coaching program as well, but we never ever ran ads promoting the coaching program like every other coaches out there. Because what we've seen is, like, when you sell in public, there is an inherent, I don't know, somehow you just kind of lose trust, because everybody's like, oh, there is a webinar, this guy is selling something. There is a VSL, this guy is selling something. We don't do that. So what we do is, like, we would compile a lot of case studies and create like a simple ebook. And ebooks still work. Like, when nobody is promoting ebooks, we promote it, it works. And we run ads through those, and it's very targeted to a specific kind of audience. So let's say I want to work with agency owners who are making at least 10 grand a month. Then I would probably pick my best case studies who went from 10 grand to 30 grand a month, and then run ads to those and ask people to just download the ebook, thereby adding them to my list. And that's all we have been doing. That's in India. And if I have to reach out to countries abroad, then I would just send a cold email saying that, hey, I have this newsletter, would you be interested in joining in? And they just have to say yes, and my VA will just add them into my newsletter. That's what we have been doing. And honestly, I didn't do anything. The guy who used to run this agency before me, who is my co-founder, he is genius with email marketing. So he built this entire system, and I just added cold emails and referral systems on top of that. So what we would do is, like, we would just promote a content as opposed to promoting an offer. And we would just ask people to join our list. And the first 5 emails would be more of an indoctrination sequence, where we'll just share an emotional story. We'll tell them our stuff. And then right around 3rd or 4th email, we'll just give them an offer. And that's a very indirect offer. Probably the 3rd email that we write is more about a pain point that they're facing. And we'd say how deep this pain is, how they can solve them, give them a highlight. And the call to action of that email would be like, hey, if you want us to help you with this, if you're facing this problem and want us to help you with this, reply back to this email. So people have to reply back with an actual problem to qualify to get on a call with us. And everybody who does, we know for a fact that they are, like, really hot. Like, they have a very valid pain point. We ask our sales team to reply to them, book a call, and then we close deals on our sales teams. And so that's like the entire funnel. But the top of the funnel is always a content and ads running to them, or outreach running to them. And so far we have a list of about 500,000 big, 500,000. My personal list is about 30,000. Collectively, me and my co-founder have about 500,000 big list. And yeah, this has been our bread and butter. That's how we have done. Yeah.
That's interesting. And then, so how did you get, that was interesting to me when I saw your YouTube channel, how did you get people like Alex Hormozi, for example, to interview them, to have calls with them and make YouTube videos with? That was really interesting for me, if you can talk about this.
I think it's a stroke of luck, my man. Like, honestly, when I saw the promotion of $100 million leads starting, Alex actually had this affiliate program, right? And believe it or not, I actually asked all the big shot digital marketers here in India to help me promote my link, but everybody was promoting their own stuff. So what I did was, like, I wrote a summary of $100 million offers, not like a big summary, like a small summary. And I asked people to, kind of sign up to $100 million leads. So a lot of people signed up to that, and everybody who clicked, I kind of started like a referral thing. So out of, when I promoted it for the first time, out of this 30,000 big list, we had about 300 or 500 registrations. I don't remember the number correctly. And we hit rank 9th, if I remember, in the first week of promotion. And when I saw that, okay, we can do something about it, I simply asked and I kept sending newsletters, kept promoting it. And we hit about 1,200 odd registrations, but we are still hitting around rank 9, rank 10, around those numbers. and there was a big chance that I might not be in the top 10. So what I would do is like, what I did was like, I wrote a very emotional story explaining how Alex changed my life, how this book launch can change your life, and it would be great if you can share my link with other people. And I think the story that I wrote was really something that it resonated with my audience, and honestly people started sharing it with other people. And I would see a lot of people share it with 20 other people, and people share the screenshot of my email on their LinkedIn profiles, and it kind of sort of went viral. I won't say it's viral, but I could see the story getting shared a lot, and a lot of people came through my email list's referral network to the audience. And towards the end, I think we had about 2,500 odd leads generated for Alex, and we hit rank 8th. And because of that, since Alex promised the top 10 people would get an interview with them, with Alex, so that's what we did. It's pretty simple. Honestly, anyone with a big list could do it, but we did it.
That's awesome. And then I've seen the way I found you, for example, the way I came across you. I was researching some prompts on how to create prompts for ChatGPT to simplify the process of the creation of a Grand Slam offer. And then I did find it on Google Images somehow, or some slides or somewhere, wherever you uploaded this, some kind of landing page. It was completely random how I came across you. And this page was just showing your prompts, and I think it was a link to a page that you would link under the video, where people could go to see those prompts or something like that. And that's through this I did check out your video. I was surprised the video has only, I think, 5,000 views, and it was one of the coolest videos I've seen on YouTube ever. There was a video essentially about the clear process of just typing prompts into ChatGPT that create a Grand Slam offer for you, and I thought it was genius. How did you come up with it?
I love using GPT. Honestly, while I was reading the offers book, while I was reading this, I was also applying this on my clients' funnels, right? So I would ask my clients to do A, B, C, and there was this particular client who was a little bit hesitant. So there was this auto service dealer who needed my help, and sorry, this guy was selling to auto services, so kind of a B2B thing. And I asked him, hey, you know what, you should go ahead and interview your clients, ask them these questions, whatever Alex mentioned in offers book. And I was like, oh, I don't know, it's not that I don't have a good relationship, whatever. Like, he started giving me excuses. So I was like, oh, fuck it, like, I'll just ask ChatGPT. So act like an auto service dealer and tell me the pain points. And it started, and GPT-4 was pretty good. It started giving me pretty good results. And when we started seeing the kind of results it was giving, this guy was happy, and we ended up creating an offer within a week. So whatever I did with him, I just took it and I made it better and published online. And in fact, the current version of ChatGPT $100 million offer is so much better than the one that I published. And
you mean the prompt, or
the prompts?
The current version of the prompt. Okay, so you've like engineered it further. You've got it better.
Yeah, it's much better now, especially for for service businesses. So the one that I created was a little bit more generic for everyone, all the businesses, but because I am in the service sector, if you are a service business owner, the kind of prompt that I've created now, it's a little bit better. So that's right.
Yeah, that was great. It was very useful to see that prompt. It was very interesting prompt engineering to walk through this process. I'm sure if anybody subscribes to you or your newsletter, one day maybe they can receive that as a benefit of doing that.
I can share it with you. Maybe you can put it in the links in the description. Maybe it is just a Google Doc. You guys can see there is no opt-in now. I just removed that.
Okay, that's amazing. I will link it under the description. I've used it myself. I've also showed it to some of my clients I work with to kind of simplify the process for them as well of their market research, and that was very useful as well. So I really recommend using Jayant's prompt engineering methods for the Grand Slam offer for sure. I guess maybe going towards the end, the last question that I'm interested in is just circling back to India and the scales and the approach of people in India. What do you feel as somebody from India and your team, your coworkers? What do you think are the special skills that people in India have comparing to other countries? And the example I would give you, when I work with people internationally, for example, I've seen this working with people from the US. They are very bold, very confident, and it's really great sometimes when we engage them in the sales process. I work with a bunch of people from Germany, for example, and some of them are amazing system builders. And I see that every country has this kind of not to generalize, and of course, people are
Yeah.
very different, and you can't like generalize anyone. But I've seen that kind of like every country or has some kind of special, unique skill, and I'm curious, what do you think as as somebody from India, what do you think is that special kind of skill that you've observed that the Indian teams have, maybe on the bigger scale, more developed than some teams across other countries?
I think Indians are more open to do the dirty work or the grunt work, I would say, because that's what is needed in the business.
Mhm.
I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
I had this VA from Philippines,
Mhm.
and I needed to personalize some emails. And this guy, he was charging a lot, and still, even if he was charging a lot, he had very specific work hours.
Mhm.
And because the demand was a little bit higher, he would not give me personalized lines on time. And I realized, what, I cannot depend on somebody who is in Philippines. I need someone in-house. So I hired a guy in India. The cons of this thing is, like, in India, we are not that great in English. There's probably I think 10% of the population who is like good with speaking English in an accent, like UK accent or a US accent. The 90%, they need to be trained. So with this guy that I hired,
Can you just explain that just for people watching it, because maybe not everybody understands this context, because I feel like people are confused. Is India a native speaking, like English native speaking country or not? Like people are kind of confused
okay.
about, is it a code switch? People talk about code switching. I think there's a bit of confusion there, and people are not sure
No,
what's
we
going on.
speak English.
Mhm.
We don't
Mhm.
speak English that well. That's what I'm saying. Like for example, the accent, the European accent, and the American, and not just the accent, the grammars, the verbs that you use, the words are very different in UK and US, right? So an Indian would have a very hard time figuring out the difference between an UK sort of a business, the language that should be used for an UK business versus the language that you should be using for a US business, right? So there is a little bit of a difference there, the spellings and everything. So even we speak English, we just don't speak English as great as you guys, right? So that's the biggest challenge. So you need to train people a little bit. It doesn't take a lot of
Mhm.
training.
But what's up with, like, sorry for cutting you, but what's up with like the people from India, anywhere around, they speak some local language that don't understand, and then suddenly they speak English and then they switch again. Have you seen that before? I see that a lot, and I just
Yeah.
I've learned what it's about, but I think it's just interesting to people and confusing as well. What's that code switching?
Oh, I mean, when you grow up with at least 3 languages
Mm-hmm.
spoken in your entire house, I think it comes naturally. Because I grew up with, so English aside, in
Mm-hmm.
my home, we had 3 languages.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Odia is one language, Hindi is another, and Hindi is the most popular language in India, and then there's Bengali. So there are 3 languages that
Mm-hmm.
all my family members would be speaking, and they would be switching between these three. And when you add English on top of that, it becomes a little bit of a mess. So when we talk in general, when we talk to another fellow Indian, um, we switch. While
Mm-hmm.
talking to my wife, we switch. So, I will be speaking half the sentence in English and half in my native language. And what happens is, anybody who is listening to us, let's say an outsider, they will get confused the hell out of their mind, and that's what happens. don't take it personally. We don't intend to do it. It's just how we have been raised.
No, I
That's
just
how.
wanted to clarify this because a lot of people from like countries like where I'm from in Poland, they just speak Polish. They're not gonna want to use too many foreign words neither, and then older people would call you out for using English words for destroying the language. If do you know what I mean? They'd be like very conservative about preserving the language versus
Yeah.
when I live in Dubai now. A lot of Arab people here in Dubai, they speak Arabic, but then they speak English as well because it's UAE is I think above 80% of foreigners, so they just have to,
Yeah.
and it's everyone is used to it. When as another example, I lived in the Philippines for a month. People just switch, between Tagalog and so I think it was a new concept for me that I wasn't aware of. South Africa and similar in some ways. So it was just a concept that I wanted to kind of bring to everybody's attention here from the countries, where they just have one language or another language, like Poland, Germany, etc.
I thought it
All
was
right.
pretty common in Europe because Europe has so many languages there.
It is for so I went to college in south like western part of Europe in Netherlands and south of the Netherlands in Maastricht, and that's a country, that's a city right on the border between Germany, Belgium. There are some parts of Europe like this, but then it's very clear that like for example people in Switzerland, they would speak French, Italian, German, but then it would be clear for them I'm speaking to the German speaker and I'm switching to French, for example. But what I've seen in, for example, the Philippines, hanging out in, for example, a bar with people would be talking to each other in Tagalog, and then they would drop in a lot of words and even sentences in English. And then I'm like, looking at them, it's like, hey, I think I understand you. And then suddenly they switch back to Tagalog with each other. So that is kind of the code
That's
switching
pretty
that I've
common in
observed.
India here. Yeah.
Got it. But then I interrupted you. You were saying about this best skill that the people in India have, which is they do groundwork. And then you gave me example of this challenge you've had collaborating with somebody in the Philippines. Mm-hmm.
So something that I've observed is like Indians are pretty smart. I would say, again, generalize, there is still 80-20 here. A lot of people are smart here. It's just that they don't have that vocabulary. And which is why probably Indians are not that great at sales, especially when you're selling to a Western audience, because we don't have that vocabulary. And US, they have very strong vocab. And, I don't know, the US culture is like that. It's very confident in terms of that. I've spoken to people in UK and US. People in UK, what I've observed is like, when they say something, they kind of iterate it in their head a lot and try to say the right thing. But I don't know if it sounds so stereotypical, but that just has been my observation. When I speak to an American, they just speak things so confidently that, I don't know whether it's right or wrong. They just speak things so confidently that you get sold to that idea. Always. So I think that's why Americans are very good at selling. At least
I think the joke goes, that's part of being American. You're truly American if you're wrong, and then you stand up to your opinion, and you're insult other people who are right, but you stand up to yourself and you just tell them they're wrong and you're right.
Welcome to America. But I don't know, that's a pretty cool thing.
Mm-hmm. So Indians are smart and they do the
but they don't have that vocab, so you have to kind of train them on how to speak or how to write in that case. ChatGPT is pretty good at this. So nowadays my employees, when they're writing, let's say, first line for emails, personalizing the emails, I would just ask them to see whatever lines you wrote, just put it on GPT. Say, make it more European, make it sound like a UK business person, and GPT would give them a pretty good line with a good context. That's what we have been using. But one good thing is my boys, they're not afraid. They don't complain that this work is not glorifying or something like that. They're not afraid to do this dirty work of scraping leads, using tools, all those, which normally takes a lot of time. And one of the reasons, a lot of my US customers specifically, when I ask them, hey, do you have a lead list or something? They feel like, this work is not worth it. We should just outsource it. And here people are willing to do that work. So I think that way there is a good supply chain supply demand thing that is coming up, and people in India, they are willing to do this work. Given a little bit training, they can become excellent employees. And second good thing is, like, at least while I was working with Filipinos are very trustworthy. Again, I should not compare that with Indian. Something that I've observed is, like, you can trust people here in India. So again, I think I've been lucky. I don't know. This has just been my observation. Is that we had literally zero churn so far. We are a team of 15 now, and nobody has left the company, and they have been with us for a very long time, and we pay them well for their company, and so they stuck with us. And one thing about my team members is that I can just close my eyes and trust them. They won't leak the data. That's something that I've observed, at least in my experience.
That's really interesting. And maybe the last question: you've recently launched your own mastermind as well. As an agency owner, you also launched your own mastermind, which is really interesting because you obviously have the experience. You're running your agency by yourself. Now you're launching your own mastermind as well. Can you just give a quick rundown of what is that you guys are focusing on teaching your mastermind members? What is the key program that you teach them?
Okay, all right. So again, we're pretty much doing the same thing that we have been doing in the Done For You service. So in Done For You, we help B2B businesses in the UK and the US with cold emailing. So a lot of Indian companies also started reaching. The problem there is, like, they couldn't afford us. So here, nobody is willing to pay $100 per appointment. So what we started doing was, like, hey, you know what? Let us just teach you guys this stuff, and you guys can build an in-house team. So it kind of become a consulting. And in the mastermind, we focus on 5 core pillars of any business that stops them from scaling. The first pillar is foundation, which is the niche and the offer. The second pillar is lead generation. In our case, it's mostly cold emails and cold outreach is something that we teach them. Third pillar is sales, how exactly to package proposals, all those. Fourth pillar is hiring the right talent, and the fifth pillar is building the right operating system for the business. So these are the 5 problems that we solve, and we pick one problem at a time for any customer that we get.
And this is for any kind of digital agency, any kind of digital B2B service business, or is there any specific type of business that you guys
any
are
kind of
focusing on?
digital B2B business.
Got
But
it.
if I have to be really specific, person who wants to join the mastermind, they have to be in the digital B2B space with at least 5 case studies. We do not take people if they don't have case studies, because it becomes very difficult for us to give them results, because
Right.
when you are sending outreach mails, your case studies are the only thing that other people care about, at least
Right.
right? So that's what we have kind of focused on.
Got it. All right. Thanks so much, Jayant. That was really, really interesting and very insightful. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And if you want to follow Jayant, I will put his social media links, YouTube channel, and everything else in the description of this video. Thanks, Jayant. Thanks for tuning in.
Awesome, Matt. Thanks a lot.